8C, we're going to look at hypothesis testing for means. So similar process. All right, just a couple different buttons on the calculator. Okay. For the means, we need to be aware of large sample versus small sample. So just like we did with our confidence intervals last unit, the magic number is 30. Okay. So if the sample size is greater than or equal to 30, we are going to consider that a large sample and use a z-test. Okay, so if you look, these steps look very similar to what we did last time with the proportions. Okay, here's the calculator. Again, just a little bit different buttons. All right, so we're going to press F1 for z-test still, but we're going to pick 1S for one sample, and then here's what your screen should look like. Okay, same thing. So mu is the alternate. So this little symbol right here that looks like a U with a tail, that is the Greek letter mu. Okay, and that's where you're going to put whatever your alternate hypothesis is. So greater than, less than, or not equal to. Okay, in the mu null, we're going to put the mean from our hypotheses. Sigma, this little O with a tail, is the standard deviation. X bar, X with the bar over it, is the sample mean. Okay, and then N is, of course, your sample size. So we'll look at an example. Homeowners claim the mean speed of cars traveling on their street is greater than the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, and then they have a sample. So verify that you can use a z-test. A random sample of 100 cars. 100 is greater than or equal to 30, so we're using a z-test. All right, so let's write our hypotheses. So we have null and alternative. Okay, the homeowners claim that the speed of cars is greater than 35. Okay, greater than, not greater than or equal to, so that's going to go in the alternative, so that they claim that the mean is greater than 35. All right, so my null then has to be the opposite of that with an equal to, so less than or equal to 35. Okay. Alpha is always in the problem, 0.05, that's our cutoff for being too unusual, and then we're going to find the p-value with the calculator. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to go to menu and then stat. All right, test is F3, z-test is F1, and one sample is F1. All right, and then it asks us for our information. So our null or alternative hypothesis is that it's greater than. Okay, our mean that we're testing is 35. Oops, gotta move that up a little bit. Okay. Sigma is our standard deviation. The standard deviation from our sample was 4. X bar is the mean from our sample, and so their sample of 100 cars had a mean of 36. And then N is our sample size, and they had a sample of 100 cars. All right, and we're going to go ahead and run that test. Okay. So P is 6.2097, but e to the negative third. Again, I'm going to add zeros in front, one less than whatever number is there. So my P is going to be 0.006. Make sure I rounded that correctly. Yes, 0.006. Okay, compare my P to my alpha, which is 0.05. 0.006 is less than 0.05. So I would reject, all right, the null hypothesis. Okay, and then we're going to write our conclusion sentence just like we did with proportions. So we reject the null hypothesis because the p-value is less than alpha. All right, and then we have to go back and look for what is the claim. The claim is that the speed is greater than 35. Okay, so the speed is greater than 35. That's our claim. All right, our claim is in the alternate hypothesis. So if we reject the null, we are saying there is enough evidence for this alternative hypothesis. So there is enough evidence to support the claim that the average speed is greater than 35 miles per hour. So we did large sample, now we also have to look at small sample. And just like we did with our confidence intervals, when we see small samples and is less than 30, we're going to use t-test, all right? Just like we used that t-distribution, the t-table in our last unit, okay? Other than that, all the steps are the same. Okay, and so in the calculator, again, just slightly different buttons. All right, this time we're going to pick F2 for a t-test, one sample, and then here's all the things that we need to enter. We need to enter the alternative hypothesis, the mean, the sample mean, standard deviation, and sample size. Okay, so we'll go through this example. We have a used car dealer. He says the mean price of a 2008 Honda CR-V is at least $20,500. You disagree, and so you find a sample of 14 of them that has a mean price of $19,850 with a standard deviation of 1,084 at alpha equals 0.05. Is there enough evidence to reject the dealer's claim? Okay. Step 1, verify you can use a t-test. Well, our sample is 14, so that is less than 30. Okay, so our hypotheses, all right, let's see. He says that it is at least 20,500. At least, all right, would be greater than or equal to. So that's going to go in the null because it has the equal to. All right, so then our alternative would be the opposite of that, less than 20,500. Okay, and this time our claim is in the null hypothesis. Identify alpha, 0.05 from the problem. Find the p-value using the graphing calculator. Okay, so again, we're going menu, stat, okay, F3 for test. This time we're doing a t-test, all right, and we are doing a one sample t-test, okay. Our alternative hypothesis is that it is less than, okay. Our mean is 20,500. That's the number we're looking at. Our X-bar, our sample mean is 19,850. Okay. My version of the calculator looks a little different. Yours will say SX. That is the standard deviation. So that is 1,084. And then, whoops. And then our sample size, we sampled 14. Okay, 14 cars. All right. And so it gives us a bunch of information. The one we're really concerned with is p-value. So our p-value is 0.021. All right, 0.021. And again, we compare that with our alpha, which is 0.05. All right, 0.02 is less than 0.05. So we would reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so in this case, our claim is in the null hypothesis. So we are rejecting the claim, all right, that the mean is greater than 20,500. Okay, so same thing with our conclusion sentence. We reject the null hypothesis because the p-value is less than alpha. Okay, so this one, we have to, the question says reject the dealer's claim. So I'm going to change this to reject. Okay, and there is enough evidence to reject the claim that the mean price is at least 20,500 because that's what it said in the problem. Okay, the mean price is at least 20,500. Okay, we can reject that claim. Now I changed it to the word reject because that's what the question asked me. Is there enough evidence to reject the dealer's claim? Okay, so with our conclusion sentence, I gave you this little template here. All right, you might need to change the word support to reject based on what the question asks you. And that's all for hypothesis testing for means.